the big item that is causing conversation across the country, of course, is the Levy. But more on that in a minute. First, a quick recap of what the finance minister said. Also, the response of the minority to what he said.
We continue to have a huge number of our young people without jobs. Mr. Speaker, this budget is redefining our development paradigm by focusing on the private sector, particularly on entrepreneurship development. We will build an entrepreneurial nation by aggressively implementing programs that empowers the majority of our young people to employ their God-given talents to take risks and become job creators instead of job seekers. In the pursuit of this objective, we will address the challenges our existing and aspiring entrepreneurs face. These challenges include access to credit and finance, regulatory and tax burdens, lack of skills, as well as mentorship. We will do this whilst intensifying our efforts to support the private sector to expand and create jobs. Mr. Speaker, this understanding of the youth employment challenge, as well as extensive consultations of stakeholders, including youth associations and educational institutions across the country, have led to the development of what we call the Youth Start Initiative. In addition, Mr. Speaker, our local banks have agreed to a package that will result in increasing their SME portfolio up to 5 billion Ghana cedis over the next 3 years. After 2.5 years of operation, the temporary benchmark discount policy on imports introduced as a stopgap measure has been reviewed to make it more efficient and better targeted. This is consistent with government policy to promote local industry and improve foreign exchange earnings. We are committed to a program of turning our enterprising traders into manufacturers of widgets, tools, and other machinery necessary as inputs for our industrial growth.
This Christmas, ladies and gentlemen, will go down as the most bitter and painful for Ghanaians as they will struggle to put food on the table for the families due to the draconian fiscal and tax policies that has been introduced by the Akufo-Addo government. We are hearing that they are going to introduce the electronic transaction levy, affecting mobile money taxes, mobile money transactions, and bank transfers, and an inflows in remittance. So simply put, what this government seeks to do is that from January 2021, January 2022, every single remittance from anybody living abroad to your mother, to your father, and for the purposes of your investment is going to attract taxes from this administration. We think this is not acceptable, and we will advise ourselves when the time comes. Again, we are seeing that they are going to introduce a special tax on mobile money. We have served notice through our minority leader that the minority caucus of Ghana's parliament will stand by Ghanaian, the ordinary Ghanaian, in opposing this Momo tax. These new tax measures will bring great suffering to Ghanaians. We wish to assure the people of Ghana that we will vigorously oppose the killer taxes and will ensure that any one of them that will adversely affect the lifestyle of Ghanaians will be rejected.
All right. Okay. So to help us get to grips with this conversation, we have two guests, possibly one more joining us later. But right now, Engineer Mahama Abdullah is a civil engineer, a road and building consultant. He's a friend of the show. You've heard him many times speak here. Another friend, Professor Godfred Bokpin, Professor of Finance and an economist at the University of Ghana. Both join us electronically without tax. Good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning. And good morning to you, our cherished listeners.
Good morning, that's a good one.
Maybe you need to do all your Momo before the year ends.
Straight. All right.
Good morning, good morning, good morning.
Yeah, it's good to have you both. And we'll spend some time on the Momo in a minute. I want us to first deal with this issue of the road tolls, which have been scrapped with immediate effect. So we are already learning that in Kaswa, in the toll booth to Tema, cars are just driving smoothly through without being tolled. Engineer Mahama, there is a hope that this, in addition to somehow easing the burden of pedestrians, motorists financially, that it will also deal with the traffic situation. What's your professional assessment of that as an engineer?
Well, that is aesthetic, to say the least. As in the reason given to the scrapping of the policy is not founded in anything called engineering. My first question is the trans highway, the Burkina Faso, the Ivorian, and other internationals who are applying our road go scot-free. When in fact, most of the observations that we have made along the central corridor indicate that they are one of the causes of failures, of premature failures of our road, because of the negligence of the axle load officers to ensure that these people conform to the laid down axle load expectation for almost all types of trucks on this highway. The traffic that you witness at Wager and the Michelle Camp Road is a microcosm of or a minute part of the
Engineer Mahama, if you can turn down the radio, please. I think we're getting a bit of feedback.
I'm not using the radio.
Oh, you're not? Oh, wow. Okay.
Okay.
We'll work on it from this end. There's a little bit of feedback. We're not sure what's causing it. Please go ahead.
It's okay now?
Yeah, please go ahead.
Okay. So what it means is when the Wager traffic and Michelle Camp area, which in fact is so significant, it's so pronounced, and you want to juxtapose that to be the cause of the inconvenience across all toll booths, over 38 or so in the country, that doesn't even constitute about 2%.
Mm-hmm.
What I see from where I sit and my experience in the field of engineering for the past 17 years is the traffic locations are not properly designed and spaces are not properly allocated to those junctions. I forgot about the Dodua one. So we have the Dodua one, which is so pronounced, the Michelle Camp one, which is so pronounced, Appian Road, and then the Wager one. When you go on the Accra Kumasi Highway, when you go on the Accra Winneba Road, Takrady Road, tell me one of the toll booths that is generating the congestion. We have over 2.5 million vehicles in Ghana now registered. Approximately over 200,000 vehicles registered in Ghana per year. And out of these vehicles, over 50% are located in the Greater Accra region. Over 50%. So that is a total failure of transportation system, where in 2015, if you Google and hear what I said the Ayalolo or the BRT policy as being tried to be operated without what I heard, the measures taken in put in place at that time was a serious joke. And what I said in 2015 to date is a serious joke. So in failing the traffic system, we try to now go and put it at the toll booth as an excuse. By far, across the globe, we want to be proud to say that we are the first country to abolish the tolling system. And by far, on record again, we are the least paid tolling levy in the world. In West Africa, in Africa. Burkina Faso and Cote d'Ivoire are paying in the region of 5 Ghana cedis minimum for the car that we pay 1 cedi in Ghana. So there's no wonder when you go to South Africa, you see like you traveling on a very long stretch, like moving to Pretoria, over 300 kilometers stretch, you would have paid almost 90 Ghana cedis. But you are satisfied because it's an express road. So re-engineering the toll booth areas is a factor. And it's not compulsory that the toll booths should be at the same location. They can be staggered when you have done a very detailed traffic impact assessment to have the report at your disposal, and then you now adjust to design the road. When you look at Pokwase or Fankor, Amasaman, there's no toll booth. But that's one of, if I want to categorize the area that suffer a lot of traffic in this country, even to like 9 p.m., 10 p.m., or even a weekend, that will come among the first 3 in Accra.
Right.
But when you get to Chapman, where the toll booth had been properly engineered and designed and constructed, you will never, ever come across 5, 10 vehicles in a queue waiting to pay the toll. That is a properly designed location, a properly constructed, well-engineered toll booth.
So if you had been consulted on this, you would have advised government not to scrap the tolls, but to redesign the toll booths.
That's right. Design. And government should take a risk to look for some small funds and compensate buildings which are close to the toll booth area that is becoming a hindrance for expansion. If you know what you are going to receive at the end of the day from the toll booth areas, the locations, it's only proper that you invest. But if you are constrained with land and you expect somebody to stay in traffic for like an hour and a half at the Dodoa stretch to pay, then that's a problem. But if you engineer like what you have at Kapema and other ones that you can manage, even the motorway does not give so much traffic. It's the activities around. So if government tell us that they have thrown their hands in despair, that they cannot sanitize and bring discipline to the toll area because people are selling mentors and profits and bread and other things, and that is a problem, that will let government to boost and beat the chest and say that they are now scrapping off. Already you are making about 78 million Ghana cedis a year. And the same ministry told us that is just about 40% realization of what you expect to get there. So how do you, even those ones that you are even accruing, you cannot even maintain the road furniture. Those monies are not earmarked for construction of the roads. They are for maintenance of the roads. I.e., when you see broken down traffic lights, when you see guardrails on the Fankor to Kantra Ajonte stretch, which are almost in the road now, posing so much danger, all the guardrails you see, those metal you see along the corridor, falling and then posing so much danger to motorists and pedestrians on that highway. The traffic lights which are not working, the street lights which are not functioning, the line markings from McCarthy Hills to Wager towards Kaswa, which are vanished, and when you are going in the night, you have to be using your discretion to know which carriageway you are in, whether you're in the middle lane or the third lane or the outer lane. These are the monies which are even used for that. And the money is not even enough. So I don't see why we shy away from engineering and then bring a policy which is already losing the ground. But I can tell you before I go that this introduction of the toll would come again in about 2 to 3, 4 years. Whichever government will be in power would have a Herculean task trying to convince Ghanaians to bring it back. But when they start the construction of the motorway and other express roads, I can assure you that the tolling system will come in, and that will be make a lot of sense. For people to say, okay, I'm traveling on an express road from Accra to Kumasi, and because I'm shortening my traveling time by an hour, I'm paying X amount of money to use the express road. And that will be, in fact, that will be for a longer discussion or a broad discussion when we have time for other. All
right. Okay. Thank you for that. Now, we're joined in the studio by Dr. John Kumar. He is, of course, the Deputy Finance Minister. Thanks again for making the time. Good morning to you. Right. We'll hear a little bit from Dr. Kumar in a moment. I want to bring in Prof. Bokpin first. Still on the road tolls. I mean, we're aware that road tolls, in fact, their contribution to the road fund is very small. And so perhaps it's the policy direction of government that since the contribution is insignificant, but its removal might bring some gains in terms of savings for people, and also, well, the easing of traffic, according to Engineer Mahama, might not be a realistic expectation, but at least the easing of cost for those who pay almost daily to travel through these tolls. Do you think, on the balance of it, there might be more gains than losses from this decision?
Okay, thank you very much. I think, and good morning to your cherished listeners. In the immediate, the relief will be obvious for everyone to see because of what people go through. So, to that extent, perhaps it's working. In fact, we had talked about this a couple of months ago after a discipleship class with a man of God, and we're looking at what is the best way, given the traffic that this is generating. And it's all down to the efficiency. So if you look at a lot of the tax handles that we have in levies, we have not been efficient at maximizing the revenue generation from that. And then the inconvenience it brings for some of them tends to outweigh whatever benefit that we would have derived from that. And therefore, the popular call would have been that then abolish it. In place of that, what do you do? I think that is the issue. In place of that, if you introduce something else that is going to be more inequality enhancing, then overall the picture doesn't look good. Then the other thing I agree with the earlier presenter is that, yes, the traffic situation around the toll booths, even health-wise, is not sustainable. But abolishing the tax and the queuing there necessarily will not solve the traffic situation in the medium to the long term, because essentially it just redistributes the traffic from there to other points. And that is what we have been doing as a country over the years. There isn't a clear strategy that professes sustainable solution to the traffic situation. And it's all because since independence, we have tried to make Ghana just Accra and Accra alone. And we have not been able to link Accra to the other regional capitals in a way that leads to efficiency. Why should I live in Accra to work in Accra? Why? Why should somebody live at Legon to school at Legon? It's because of the poor transportation system, poor urban planning management that we have failed over the years. And therefore, if you have to travel from here to Cape Coast, it's as though you are going from here to New York.
Okay.
This is counterproductive. Look, and when you do a little interaction with people on the hours they spend. People spend hours in traffic just to go and pay a CD to Ghana government for the toll.
Now, Prof, talking about replacing it with what, for instance? Now, we know...
With the electronic...
yes, the e-levy. Yes, the e-levy.
Yes.
So
it's the wrong way to go. Government should just abolish it before they even start implementing it. We'll get to the details of it.
Government should what? Abolish the e-levy?
Yes, they should not.
They shouldn't even implement it at all?
It's counterproductive.
Yeah, I want us to wrap up on the road toll, and then we'll come to the e-levy, if that's okay.
Yes.
Because Dr. John Kumar is here as well. And I wanted to clarify something. Our understanding, and I'm happy to be corrected, but our understanding is that if it's a levy or a fee or a charge, it must be approved by Parliament. Yes. Scrapping it, must that also not go through Parliament?
If you want to charge, it has to go through Parliament. If you want to reduce it, it has to go through Parliament. But the implementation is by the minister, and he can always take administrative decisions.
To remove it?
To remove it.
Oh, okay.
So that's very legal.
This is something that is quite clearly spelled out in our law?
Yes.
Okay.
The minister can always use administrative to, the benchmark values that GRA was, so some of these things you can...
But those were not charges, though. Those were values assigned as benchmarks.
So
the charge is a separate thing.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's the same thing. The road toll, in terms of its implementation, can be suspended by the minister.
Oh, okay. And it's been done.
It's
with
been done.
immediate effect.
Yes, it's qualified in the law.
Right. Well, you've heard our panelists.
Yes.
The engineer thinks it won't help with traffic.
Yes.
The economist thinks it won't actually be a long-term economical solution because we haven't done the things that would allow people to be economically viable without creating traffic.
Yes, so let's start with the engineer who feels that his main concern were foreigners who drive into our
That
country.
was his first point. Yeah.
Yes, that's what I heard. And I thought I was agreeing with him on that. But the alternative would be maybe creating some charges for them at the entry points so that we don't change the objective of government. The objective of government clearly is to remove road toll on all government public roads. So this is not to say that if you go to University of Ghana and there's a private arrangement to put up roads and a toll there, you are going to remove it. In the same way, under the PPP arrangement, government is encouraging private investors to construct roads in Ghana. They will be entitled to put tolls on it to recover their investment. But all government roads, like the Kaswa interchange, the Temamoto Way, all those ones, we feel that for now, the cost of it, the inconvenience and the cost to the country is more than what we are getting from it. And when we checked, it was about 70 or 78 million Ghana cedis every year with all the cost and inconvenience. And we thought that...
But isn't that because of inefficiencies?
Yes, we
Wouldn't
know...
it be a lot more, maybe 3 times that?
It could be, but this is what we have. So if you assess that and you have other alternatives, and so we thought that by introducing the e-levy, we could still continuously reimburse the road fund with that amount. So I heard the engineer concerned about what the road fund was doing and whether it's going to stop. It's not going to stop. Every year they are still going to receive that amount of money. And the workers who worked in the toll booths are also going to be assigned by the Highways Authority. It was part of the announcement. So nobody is going to lose their jobs.
But briefly, talking about the road fund itself, and I'm just looking at the Road Fund Act, says financial resources of the fund. Monies from the fund shall be derived from. Now, B says bridge, ferry, and road tolls collected by the authority.
Yes.
This is the law.
Yes.
So as it stands now, the law has not been amended. We've abolished the collection of road tolls. How?
The law doesn't prevent government from giving any agency.
But the law
money.
says you shall get finances from road tolls.
Well, you are not flouting the law if as a government you decide that you want to make changes on how you fund the road fund. And like I said, the road responsibility in Ghana is so huge. What we are getting from the road toll is not enough to address our road concerns. And as government, our option is that we think we can do away with public road tolls for now, and then concentrate on other ways of collecting extra revenues to address it. This particular act, as we see it, will be repealed in a month or so when Parliament finally approves the budget. So,
But you've already stopped taking the toll this morning.
yes, that's administrative.
Should you not wait until the law has been repealed?
It's a decision of government. When government wants to give relief to the people, I mean, we understand the difficulties in the general inflation climate that Ghana is going through.
Aren't you worried
And-
about creating a precedent here where you are going to flout a law to give relief to the people? Where does it end?
Well, I've told you that suspending road toll collection is an administrative decision the minister can't take within the law. But if anybody disagrees with us, the Supreme Court is there for...
Well, because I've been speaking to lawyers who
interpretation.
have said clearly that we should be amending the law. You've talked about repealing the law. This particular law says shall include, and that's road tolls. But let's move on to
The e-levy, which
E-levy.
is of import to everybody. And if you don't mind, I want us to start with Professor Bokpin and then come to you. Because
Okay.
Prof. Bokpin has a rather strong position on this. Prof, let's hear it.
Yes, thank you very much. If you look at what COVID has done, it has actually fast-tracked the arrival of the fourth industrial revolution predicated on network readiness. The future is digitization and digitalization. It is expected that that is the channel through which greater jobs will be created going forward. In fact, studies have shown that by 2022, 60% of the global GDP would have been digitized. Studies have shown that the digital economy is expected to grow faster than the traditional economy. In Ghana, we have embraced digitization, a late though, but it's good. So if you are imposing a tax along that line, what is the motive? To promote it in line with the general trend or to hold it back? You don't do this at this stage of your digitization. You don't. You see, the reason we have adopted this approach, and it's a lazy way of raising revenue, right? It requires less effort. Because if you look at the existing tax handles, the inefficiency and the low productivity in the existing tax handles is a true reflection of our attitude to hard work. It's a true reflection of our low compliance level, that the laws are observed more in breach than in compliance. And because the existing tax handles that requires work, going out there, coupled with integrity and ethical values, we have failed. We are adopting these indirect ways that imposes greater cost on the poor and the marginalized and the socially excluded to fill up the revenue gap. This is what we are doing. And that is why 2021, you will see some levies, sanitation, this, and all of that. You see, the inequality enhancing effects of these tax handles are high. Already, Ghana's inequality is above the minimum threshold by the IMF, by which inequality then tends to negatively influence growth. We are in excess of 40%. Now, one of the ways that government could use to sustainably address inequality is fiscal policy. From the perspective of tax, you want to make your tax structure progressive. And in that way, you are able to contribute to narrowing the inequality. But that is not what we are doing. Look, we are saying that we want to use Momo in paying taxes. We want to use Momo in doing this and all of that. Then you slam this levy on it. Would it drive people underground? How would this inure to the financial inclusion agenda of government? How would this lend support to government's own overall digitization agenda? Because that is what the world is heading towards. So you don't impose some kind of inhibitions that will cause people to explore alternatives.
Prof, you describe it as a lazy way of raising revenue.
Yes, because you know what? When you do this, it requires no work, really. The law brings the tax revenue to GRA.
Right.
As compared to going to the marketplace, going and then doing the hard work and the other thing, the calculation, raising, assessment, and all of that.
Okay.
It's as simple as that.
What would you say to those who suggest that actually they are working smart instead of working hard? Because
there's nothing smart about it. There's nothing innovative about this. You know why? Look, anybody could do this, and I'll tell you why. Since COVID came, we've seen the uptick in terms of Momo transactions in excess of 500 billion.
Yes.
So anybody at all could look at this and say, if I slam 1.75% on this is how much I get.
Yes, but Prof, the other principle of taxation also is equity and fairness. And so there are a lot of transactions in here, and those transactions, hold on a minute, not attracting any charge, other transactions attracting. Is it not just fair to say if you are having to send money this way, then you pay this percentage of tax to government?
So look at it, because you see, it's not just about raising revenue. You are looking at the overall impact of it within a certain economic strategy and going forward. Other than that, why not tax the air that we breathe?
Well, if there was a payment point for the air,
one day
maybe they would consider it.
We breathe. And if you can't pay, then you drop dead. So you are looking at the impact and how this support government drive in a certain way.
Prof, ultimately, we've seen this happen with fuel. Okay, taxes are slapped on it because you can't avoid purchasing it. There's no alternative, really. So it's inelastic in its demand. Is that not the same with mobile money? Is it
Precisely.
not actually?
And that's the point that I'm making. But so because this one is like, you can't avoid it. Once you choose that thing, it requires no work. And that is why we have imposed so many levies on the petroleum price build-up. And check the price of petrol that we pay here compared to other countries. It's counterproductive. All of these things contribute to high productive cost base of doing business in Ghana. Look, go to a shop right now and buy something, and you see VAT, you see other levies. You count them. Then when you decide to use your Momo to pay, there is another 1.75 that you pay on top of all of that together with the VAT and then the other levies. But you see, it is wrong to assume that we can tax our way out of poverty and we can tax our way out of this pandemic, because the pandemic itself did not only affect government revenue envelope and all of that. And because of the high informal sector, you are looking at promoting a certain economic agenda that ropes in a lot of people, and then perhaps at a certain maturity stage or so, you could consider some of these things. Because you know what? The more people use that digitization and all of that, they create jobs and all of that. You could leverage on the other low-hanging fruit along that value chain.
Right.
At this stage, to do so is because you think that you can lift your own people from that angle. And let me tell you, we have not reached saturation point actually with the existing tax handles. And I'm sure my good friend, we all met at Legon, Honorable John Kumar. If you look at the existing tax handles, VAT, and the rest of them, the level of inefficiency in there, if we could close that, right, and improve on the productivity of those existing tax handles, we could actually close this revenue gap, or that we think that this electronic levy is coming to close. And that is where our problem is. Okay, so if you pick corporate income tax, in terms of its efficiency, it's one of the. It's not the best in Sub-Saharan Africa. VAT efficiency level is not one of the best. So we have these existing tax handles, but the level of inefficiency is that we are unable to generate the maximum tax revenue from these existing tax handles, and you are bringing other ones. Then what? At the end, what we want to achieve, the net is said to be more negative.
Right.
Overall, because you are looking at all these things promoting growth.
Okay, thank you for that, Prof. I want to get quick reactions from Dr. Kumar and then some frequently asked questions we've been compiling for you.
Yes, let me say a special good morning to Professor Bobkin, my colleague, as he's already stated, except to say that I strongly disagree with his position, and I am very surprised that Prof, that I know, one of his key advice always to government has been expanded tax net and broaden the tax to also cover the informal sector and all that. So I thought he would be a number one advocate for this levy in terms of its reach. And for him to take this position, I'm a bit surprised. But let's also go into the rationale behind the policy and how did we get here. Let me start by saying that government did not just start by coming to introduce levy. We have gone through years of preparation, investing in digitalization and making sure we have interoperability, developing a special payment system that is one of the best in the world. And there has been consistent growth to a level where now, like Prof said, we have reached a certain level of maturity in the estimation of government that we think it is about time to go into the digital space. First of all, the research we did indicated that there were a poor category of people who use Momo. And so this policy must find a way to exempt them. So we noticed that about 30% of people who use Momo in Ghana do not do more than 100 cedis a day, and that covers the poor. 30%. And that covers the poor category of Momo users. So this policy exempted any Momo transaction that is below and up to 100 and below Ghana cedis. You are exempted. Okay, that's the first thing. Secondly, it is the sender who will pay, not the receiver. It is the sender of the Momo who will pay the 1.75% and not the person receiving it. So that is another thing, because we know that usually those who receive it are the same category of people who need support, so we don't want to tax them. But those who have, that we want to take something from them. This is one of the progressive taxes in terms of the ability to pay principal in tax. It is one of the most equitable tax in terms of its outreach. If you're a banker and you send Momo and you meet the threshold, you pay. If you are a carpenter, a mason, or a farmer, and you send within the threshold, it covers you. So there's nothing like we are over-concentrating on a particular section of society. Okay. Now the question. Okay.
Forgive me, just before we move on to your next point, on this one you've said, how sound is this analysis that the 100 cedi ceiling protects the poor?
Yes.
Because, I mean, people of all levels of wealth pay for food, for Uber, for dispatch riders. Yet also people in the poverty bracket pay for medicines and pay for their mother's care, and pays for school fees and so forth. So is there any real way of assessing which group of society is paying which amounts?
Okay, so if you multiply the 100 cedis a day by a month, you're getting about 3,000. So in our estimation, we analyze that if you earn below or up to 3,000 Ghana cedis, you are exempted from the payment of this levy. Because if you do a day...
Hold on a minute. Do you pay at the end of the month?
No, it's a day.
So
it's
daily, so if I earn less than 3,000 and I send 200, 150, I would pay.
You will pay.
Exactly. So
but your first 100 will be exempted. So
hold on a minute. You're saying that
your first
100
yes,
cedis,
a day, within a day of your transaction will be exempted.
What if? But I just want to understand something. What if I am sending 150 at a go?
Your first 100 will be exempted.
So it means I'm paying on the
50. Yes, that's how you pay.
Okay.
And so we have worked it such that those who earn within the month up to 3,000, assuming you are sending it all out to somebody, you are exempted up to 3,000. Okay, so that's the policy.
But the analysis we've just done would indicate.
But if he's sending it all in one day,
or if you send all in one day, your first 100 Ghana will be exempted.
2,900 will attract the tax.
Will attract the tax.
So you are not protected.
Well, but we are saying that if you can send 2,900 in a day, you should be willing to contribute to our nation building. See, nobody will build this country for us. Government needs the revenues to be able to carry out all our expenditures, the road construction, the school buildings, Agenda 111 for our hospitals, and all the expenditures that people expect government to take.
Great.
So if you earn up to 3,000 a day, you are not protected.
There's nothing like protection. We are all
sorry,
citizens.
up to 3,000 a month. Sorry.
We are up to 3,000 a month by this policy. As far as this policy is concerned, it's not strictly like your earnings as in your monthly allowances, but we are talking in terms of if you are saving you 100 cedis a day per transaction, in terms of quantum, we have saved you about 3,000 Ghana cedis.
Now, let's look at one other thing. You've talked about how this is supposed to help raise revenue, but we're talking about promoting a cash-light society. We've talked about digitalization. Have you considered the impact of this on the digitalization agenda in this country?
Yes, that was one of the key considerations in the research that we did. And I've told you we did not just impose this tax. We've taken our time, the high consultants, to talk to people. What was the minimum that people will be willing to pay such that it does not push them away from using digital platforms. And that is how we arrived at the figure of 1.75. We know that initially there will be some pushback by certain people. We have done that estimation. We also covered about 24% in terms of discounting our calculation, assuming 24% react to say immediately they are not going to use it. Okay. So we've done all those calculations in terms of how the impact is going to be. But we have not all of a sudden gotten to 500 billion levels of e-transactions on Momo in Ghana. It has come through a painstaking government approach on promoting digitalization. And we believe that where we are now, this introduction is not going to draw us back.
A minute, because we're looking at an increase in Momo transactions of over 500% in 2021, also because of COVID-19. You, as in government, you're targeting 6,963 million Ghana cedis from the e-levy. That's a target I see in the budget. So we're looking at transactions of about 400 billion. And that's what will get you this amount of money. Now, lessons from other African countries have shown that there's been a pushback that you talk about. In Uganda, we saw a reduction from 1% to 0.5%. In fact, Kenya's former central bank governor, in advising against this, says that any country that does this defeats its plan of financial inclusion.
Okay.
Why are we doing this, taking all of these in mind?
Okay, so if you check the level of Momo level development in Kenya and Uganda, you cannot compare to what Ghana has done up to this stage, okay? Like I said, we have taken time to do our research before we impose this tax. We have painstakingly introduced the Momo interoperability. Now you can connect your Momo account to your bank account and vice versa. We have also, over time, helped that digital transaction become acceptable more to Ghanaians, especially even in the informal sector. So we've taken our time before introducing it. Kenya and Uganda, when they introduced the M-Pesa, quickly brought in the Momo levy, and then it collapsed the system, with that allowing the process to mature. We believe that we have built the system to a level at this stage now where we are almost at a maturity stage that government can intervene with certain level of a tax that will help government to raise some revenue and still protect the system. And we are also going to further invest in the digitalization agenda of government.
Yes, but the Kenyan case, 10 years after its introduction, they went into the taxation. 10 years after the introduction. Not just immediately, 10 years after the
introduction. But what did they do in the 10 years?
Yes, they went into the taxation. And the lessons they have learned is what I'm sharing with you. Malawi, for instance,
we've done our research
had to abandon it totally. But here we are talking about, a Ghana.gov system.
Yes.
And here we are talking about the click of a button from your mobile phone. So we are saying all these transactions would be affected.
No, Ghana.gov is not affected.
Okay.
In fact, maybe you should wait a bit to see the details of the implementation so that it does not run on Ghana.gov.
So let's understand a few things. Talking about the implementation.
Yes.
We've talked about electronic transactions. Banking transactions would be affected.
Will be affected, yes.
So if multimedia is paying its wage bill, now they will have to pay a 1.75% tax on that transaction to send the money to our banks.
Yes, but it will not affect the workers who are receiving it.
It will affect
multimedia. Yes, but the essence of taxation is to help revenues to fix your country. And you target those who can afford. If multimedia is paying you, the worker, we assume that your salary should not be touched. But at least multimedia, in ensuring that he has a good environment to operate and all the environment government has to create for multimedia to function well, they also contribute an extra tax of 1.75. You get it. So the target is not on the employee, it's on the employer, so that government can raise some extra revenues for its expenditures.
In the end,
But
it will
what-
be the consumer, the customer who pays anyway.
Yes, but while it's
Well,
not an
but that will
employee,
depend on
that's a lot
the
of money.
elasticity of demand.
Yes, but that's a lot of money too for companies that have a lot of employees. They'll be paying a lot if they have to resort to
Yes,
these
but
transactions.
it
So
means-
wouldn't you be burdening them? You're burdening them because they have to pay.
Tax is a burden. We accept that. There's nowhere in the world that tax is not a burden. We accept that difficulty. But we still have to build our country. So, and we only build the country through these taxes that we receive.
I'm being told our time is up, and there's one thing I want to get your reaction on.
Okay.
Please listen to this.
Oh,
Who can say over 200 million transactions? Are we taxing mobile money because we have mobile money at Tuska?
Yeah.
I don't know government revenue bill.
No, the point is that you are not taxing mobile money, and it is, for me, my view and that we should not tax mobile money, because mobile money transactions, a lot of the people who are using these transactions are very poor people. You know, someone will get sent 5 CDs on mobile money. Why would you want to tax that?
So
yes.
this is the
This
vice
has been-
president, the
yeah.
head of the economic management team,
Yes.
speaking last year
Yes.
on Peace FM.
That's true.
What caused the turnaround?
No, it's not turn around. And in fact, it's based on his position that I've told you. We did a research and found out that about 30% of what the vice president said were captured. And we have exempted those category of poor people who do Momo transactions up to 100 cedis a day.
But we've established in this conversation that it's not only poor people who...
Well,
these small-
anybody who does transactions within 100 cedis a day are exempted from this transaction.
Okay. I'm told our time is up. I want to say a big thank you to Dr. John Kumar, who is the Deputy Finance Minister. Okay, we've got 10 seconds to give to Professor Bokpin and Engineer Mahama to wrap up their thoughts on this matter, and then we'll have to go. Prof. Bokpin first, if you may.
Yes, thank you very much. Yes, the government has the right to impose any tax any day, any time, but we want to look at it within a certain broader context and how that lends to sustainable development, inclusive growth. And I think if you look at this tax at this time within this context, then I think that the timing is wrong.
Thank you. Engineer Mahama.
Yes, sir. Last thing, the widening the tax net. I work as a consultant and a contractor on site. Laborers and artisans are taking over 100 Ghana cedis a day. For the past year that I've been working, they are by-day workers. Government has always kept that they are trying to get all these people into a certain envelope. So if I'm supporting Prof, that lazy approach is just to go and put all the tax on the Momo. When all these artisans, the painters, the masons, the carpenters, the electricians are on our site, and they take their money per day, 100 Ghana cedis, 150 Ghana cedis per day for the month. It's about 4,500. How is government trying to get these people to be taxed? That's my question.
Okay, thank you for that. A quick one from...
But that's exactly what government is doing. Most of these payments are done on Momo to the carpenter or mason, and the call has been, why don't all of them pay tax? So we exempt your first 100 cedis. The rest, at least, you also contribute by joining the tax network for our country.
All right. I want to thank you all for your time. This is only the beginning of these conversations following the budget. We will be learning lots more as we interact more with our panelists. So thank you so much. There's more to come on the Super Morning Show. Our friends are stopping by to tell us a little bit about Bishop Herman.
Yes, Bishop Herman, they're turning 70 next year. Our younger brothers from the Volta region.
Your younger brother.
Yeah, we love them. They are younger brothers. We started before them. So
They'll tell us all about it in just a moment. Stay with us.